Aglaea or Aglaea is the first Greek and the first Remembrance girl in Star Rail, and I'm super hyped to see my country and culture represented in a game I love playing. Aglaea has a very unique kit that offers lots of damage and a good preview of what future Remembrance path units will follow, either as a DPS, either as a support, or as something completely brand new we haven't even thought of. I'm just waiting for 6-star relation sparkle, you already know that. Anyways, enough Japanese, let's get to the guide. Now, the basic attack is of course nothing, so we'll go over to the skill right away. Aglaea's skill heals the summon based on its max health, and if it is not summoned already, it summons Garmamentmaker and it instantly takes action. For Aglaea's technique, she summons Garmamentmaker for a joint attack, and after they enter combat, Aglaea gains 30 energy and deals damage to all enemies on field, and randomly inflicts the Seam Stitch state. S. This state can only be active on one enemy at a time, so this will only activate on one enemy. It will make sense in a second. Now, as for her ultimate, we're going to be summing up the ultimate, the enhanced basic attack, and the talent together, so let's go. For the talent, it basically gives Garmamentmaker an initial speed of 35% of Aglaea's base speed, and a max HP of 66% of Aglaea's max HP, and some extra flat HP on top of that. If Garmamentmaker is active on the field, Aglaea can apply the Seam Stitch debuff to the most recent enemy she hits, and if the summon is not active, then she can't apply it. After attacking the debuffed enemy, she deals damage equal to 30% of her attack. And finally, the ultimate. She summons Garmamentmaker again and restores it to max health if it is already summoned. And she also enters her ultimate state and also takes insta action. Now, depending on how many stacks her summon has of the speed talent, each stack will increase her speed by 10%. And she can only use the enhanced basic attack, and here's a new mechanic we haven't seen much in this game. A countdown will start at 100 base speed, and if it ever takes action, the summon will die and Aglaea will lose her ultimate state. If you use your ultimate while the countdown is still active, you can reset its action order and it will go back to the 100 base speed. I will be explaining what the speed talent is, so we'll get to that in a second. As for her enhanced basic attack, both of them attack a target, dealing damage that scales with their attack, and they deal an extra half of the original damage to the adjacent targets. And now, moving on to a section that is completely unique to Remembrance. The summon abilities. Garmamentmaker's skill deals damage to the targeted enemy and a bit less damage to the adjacent enemies. As for the talents, we're going to be going on them 1, 2, and 3. So number 1, Garmamentmaker gets an insta action once they get summoned. Enemies debuffed with the Seam Stitch debuff give Garmamentmaker 50 speed, stacking up to 6 times if they are attacked by Garmamentmaker. This speed can only be obtained if Garmamentmaker attacks that enemy, so they made it prioritize the debuffed enemies, using their skill automatically on them. And finally, when Garmamentmaker disappears, Aglaea gains 20 energy. For the ability prio, what you need to do is probably you need to level up your ultimate because obviously it does the most damage, and the ultimate probably has the enhanced basic attack integrated into its upgrade path, so you will be needing to level up your ultimate ASAP with the talent coming in close by, so keep them on kind of a steady leveling just so you can have the best of both worlds. As for the skill, you can level it up next to give it more health, and the basic attacks can kind of be ignored, but if you're a true man for Greek women, you will level her up to max. And now we're going to be moving into the traces. We're going to be starting with the small ones first. She gains 22.4% lightning damage bonus, 11.9 crit damage, and 12.5% defense. Now, obviously the lightning damage bonus is very good, meaning you can focus a little more on attack percent than lightning damage bonus for your ball. And you can also focus a little more on crit damage since you already gain some crit rate. I'm not saying to not go lightning damage bonus or crit rate on your substats or your ball or whatever. I'm just saying you can prioritize those because you have some innate crit rate and lightning damage bonus. And of course the defense is nice. And now let's go into the bigger traces. Trace 1, while in Supreme Stance, which is the ultimate state, Garmamentmaker gains an attack increase, scaling with both of their speeds, with Aglaea scaling at 720% and her summon at 360%. And here is obviously where the whole speed scaling kit comes from, or at least a part of this speed scaling kit comes from this trace alone. Trace 2, when Garmamentmaker disappears, one stack of the speed boost from the summon's talent is retained, and once it's resummoned again, Garmamentmaker gains all the speed boost stacks that it has retained so far. Now, I'm not exactly sure because it doesn't say very clearly, but I'm pretty sure you can only keep one of them, but it might potentially be more, just so you don't have to stack it all the time. So we'll just go with the theory that you can retain almost all of them if you stack it at least once, so you don't have to keep recharging the speed boost effect all the time. And finally, for the third trace, when you start battle, if Aglaea's energy is lower than 50%, it regenerates Aglaea's energy until 50%, meaning probably she gains more energy regen until at 50% energy. Because again, remember, Aglaea has 350 energy cost, which is not very little. We'll be talking about how you can kind of fix this energy problem later down the line on the team section. And no, it's not only Sunday. Now, for Relics, I'm not going to be talking about the 2 pieces, I'm only going to be talking about the 4-piece, because I'm sure you are a smart person, you can definitely figure out that 2-piece lightning or 2-piece attack, or 2-piece attack and 2-piece attack can also work very well. You don't really exactly need the 4 pieces, but it is very good to farm them because their best in slot is a 4-piece. Anyways, let's actually go to the Relics. For best in slot, we obviously have Hero of the Triumphant Song, which is going to be the newest relic that is going to be introduced. This, for a 2-piece, it gives you attack percent, and on the 4-piece, it increases the wearer's speed by 6% if they have a summon active on the field, and when the summon attacks, both the summon and the summoner gain a 30% crit damage increase. This is by far the best, but you can also use 4-piece Musketeer, which I'd put at 2nd place if you want to get that. 3rd place, I would put 4-piece Band, and alongside it with Genius. There will be another 4-piece set you can use, but I do not recommend that one since it decreases your speed, which obviously goes against the entire principle of playing Aglaea. As for the planar ornaments, the Wondrous Banana Park is obviously the best in slot for many reasons. You gain 16% crit damage and you gain another 32% crit damage if you have a summon, so it obviously makes sense why you would want to get this. Replacements for this one is Rutilant Arena, and Firmament is actually really good because you can technically reach that entire speed cap it has very easily. So I would actually kind of rank it equal to Rutilant Arena, but Rutilant Arena does give you a lot of buffs as well. And on a little side note, Izumo is kind of situational but can be very good for that crit rate if you duel with a Remembrance unit. Wink wink, Trailblazer wink wink. Now for the main stats, obviously you want speed on your boots, there's no doubt about it. Crit damage or crit rate on your chest, depending on which one is lower. If you have more crit damage, you go for crit rate, and the other way around. Attack percent or even energy regen, because 350 is very much, but in my opinion, I don't think that's worth it. I think you should just go attack percent. It's not worth to sacrifice that attack percent. And finally, attack percent or lightning percent, with attack percent being a little bit more favored because you already have some innate lightning damage. As for the smaller stats, obviously you want speed more than anything else, then you can focus on your crits, and finally you can look for attack percent last. There's no caps to anything, you need to look for the most speed, the most crit rate or crit damage, and the most attack, but especially speed. And now the team section, the one you've been waiting for probably. Now, I will kind of list them in a kind of PowerPoint way. I will not be going over them in great detail. I will just be listing their name and I will be giving a few little things that they can do. As you can see, I have even sorted them out on my script. So for the first part of the team section, I just want to give you some supports that can increase your speed or your base speed or your speed in general. And the list goes E1 Ting Yun, Bronya E2, Ronmei in general, Hanya in general, Asta from her ultimate in general, and E2 Robin can all increase your speed or your base speed in some kind of way. So if you have any of those, make sure to build them and use them with Aglaea. As for other supports on the Harmony side, every support works with her, all of them are perfect except the Harmony Trailblazer, don't get tricked into that, use the Remembrance one. And the king of Remembrance DPSs is obviously Sunday himself, he's basically built for this job, and let me tell you, he does it really good. So Sunday is by far the best support you can have, with Remembrance Trailblazer also being a kind of support like sub DPS, which is also very good, but any support works just as good. As for debuffers you can use, all of them work perfectly. Gwen Ifen, Silverwolf, Pela, Jiao Cho, Black Swan, all of them work really good. And now for sustainers, we have Hoho for the energy regen and the attack percent you get. The energy regen obviously being massive. We have Aventurine, which increases the crit damage you deal to enemies. And Fushuan, which obviously gives you crit rate increases. And finally, for some synergies, there's not very many synergies except for the Remembrance Trailblazer. Because again, you can play Aglaea and the Trailblazer in a kind of sub-DPS support way, because the Trailblazer does have some damage, and it also has supporting capabilities. On to the light cones, which are obviously very many, all 4 of them. Let's get on with one of the 4, the signature light cone, Time Woven into Gold. It increases her base speed by 12, and after either her or Garmamentmaker attack, a stack of Brocade is gained, increasing the crit damage by 15%, up to 3 stacks. At maximum stacks, each Brocade stack can increase the basic attack damage as well by 15%, up to 45% as well. So you gain 45% crit damage and 45% basic attack damage increase. Why do I know so well? Well, I got clowned on it on my previous video. Also, if you want to know if these light cones are actually worth to get, make sure to go watch my video down below, or at the end of the video. For Genius's Greetings, it increases the wearer's attack by 16%, and after they use their ultimate, it additionally increases the wearer and the summon's attack by 20% for 3 whole turns. For Sweat Now Cry Later, it increases the crit damage by 12%, and when the summon uses an ability on any ally, it increases all targets' damage by 8%. And as you can see, Aglaea doesn't do any of this second part. So you're basically putting on 24% crit damage from your Lycon if you use this. And Victory in a Blink increases your crit rate by 12%, and when the summon is on the field, it increases the summon and the summoner's damage dealt by 24% indefinitely. Everything except Sweat Now Cry Later is very good, so make sure to use anything you have. It's just if you have Victory in a Blink or Sweat Now Cry Later, make sure to use Victory in a Blink. And now for the part that everyone skips at E2 because nobody's getting anything more than E1, the Eidolons. Woohoo! So for the 3 people that are willing to watch E2, E4, and E6, buckle up because there's good stuff in here. Let's look at the Eidolons. For her E1, when either Aglaea or her summon take action, the damage dealt ignores 14% of the enemy's armor. This effect can stack up to 3 times and will last until the other unit uses an ability besides Aglaea or her summon. For E2, enemies with a Seam Stitch debuff take 8% increased damage, and when Aglaea or her summon attack them, they regenerate 20 energy for themselves. This increased damage, I don't know if it applies to only Aglaea or her summon, or both of them, or all of the team. Okay guys, I just read my script. It actually says just takes 8% increased damage, so that means it's for the entire team. E4 makes the speed boost talent effect from Garmamentmaker stack an additional time, so 7, and when Aglaea attacks, Garmamentmaker gains the speed boost from its talent. Finally, we have a broken E6 after so many months. While Aglaea is in her ultimate state, or supreme stance, both her and her summon gain a 20% lightning res pen, basically a Ron May ultimate. And when either Aglaea or her summon speed is above 160, 240, or 320 respectively, the damage dealt by the joint attack increases by 10%, 30%, and 60% respectively. Meaning if you already killed the boss, well, now you can erase it from existence. And before we get to the outro, here are the materials. For general upgrades, you'll want the Fear Stomped Flesh, which will be released in the newer version of Amphorius, so do not worry about this material for now. What material you do need to worry about is the new Seed of Thought, which is going to be used for the traces. This one is again Amphorius locked, so you cannot farm this in any way, shape, or form, so I'm just letting you know what to farm. Now, what you can farm is the Fei Shao weekly boss, which is going to be the required boss to level up Aglaea's stuff. And finally, to level up the character, you will be needing the Nail of the Beast coffin. And that's gonna do it, folks. I have been speaking for way too long. I'm very hyped. I will be pulling for her. I might even do some kind of video on pulling stuff for her, but these guides will continue for sure. Anyways, I have no time again. I need to get these videos out. See you on the Remembrance Trailblazer guide. Peace!